Frederick Winslow Taylor was an American mechanical engineer. He was widely known for his methods to improve industrial efficiency. He was one of the first management consultants. His pioneering work in applying engineering principles to the work done on the factory floor was instrumental in the creation and development of the branch of engineering that is now known as industrial engineering.
Konosuke Matsushita was the Japanese industrialist who founded Panasonic, Japan's largest consumer electronics company. In Japan, he's referred to as the god of management. According to him, we, the Japanese, are going to win and the industrial West is going to lose out. The reasons for failure are within yourselves. Your firms are built on the Taylor model. Even worse, so are your heads. With your bosses doing the thinking while workers wield the screwdrivers, you're convinced deep down that it is the right way to run a business. For the essence of management in your mind is getting the ideas out of the heads of bosses and into the heads of labor. We are beyond that mindset. Business, we know, is now so complex and difficult, the survival of firms so hazardous in an environment increasingly unpredictable, competitive, and fraught with danger, that the continued existence of a firm depends on the day-to-day mobilization of every ounce of intelligence.
As it developed in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, the intellectual movement that went under the name of liberalism emphasized freedom as the ultimate goal and the individual as the ultimate entity in the society. It supported laissez-faire at home as a means of reducing the role of the state in economic affairs and thereby enlarging the role of the individual. It supported free trade abroad as a means of linking the nations of the world together peacefully and democratically. In political matters, it supported the development of representative government and of parliamentary institutions, reduction in the arbitrary power of the state, and protection of the civil freedoms of individuals. Beginning in the late 19th century, and especially after 1930 in the United States, the term liberalism came to be associated with a very different emphasis, particularly in economic policy. It came to be associated with a readiness to rely primarily on the state rather than on private voluntary arrangements to achieve objectives regarded as desirable. The catchwords became welfare and equality rather than freedom. The 19th century liberal regarded an extension of freedom as the most effective way to promote welfare and equality. The 20th century liberal regards welfare and equality as either prerequisites of or alternatives to freedom. In the name of welfare and equality, the 20th century liberal has come to favor a revival of the very policies of state intervention and paternalism against which classical liberalism fought.
In the early 2000s, audit scandals rocked the US and resulted in the Sarbanes-Oxley Act in July of 2002.
According to one IT internal audit specialist, the Big Four responded to the advent of SOX by recruiting people straight out of university and sending them out to audit companies. They did this even though their auditors received little audit training and had almost no understanding of SOX. In spite of this, the fees were outrageous. The practice continues to this day, but now the Big Four sends out inexperienced auditors in a much larger area of alleged expertise.
A startup, especially as a founder, is a calling. And if you're not called to that, if you can't get that out of your head, if you're not passionately engaged waking up at 3 in the morning and making notes, if it's not the first thing you're thinking about in the shower and convincing your family that this is the thing that you need to dedicate your life to, don't even think about doing it. Because the odds of success in a startup are infinitesimally low. This has to be passion-driven, not career-driven or salary-driven. And so that's the first thing I remind students who either want to be part of a founding team or an early employee. This is not a job. Entrepreneurs are closer to artists than any other career. We make the mistake in teaching entrepreneurship in thinking that it's akin to a business school curriculum or an engineering curriculum. Entrepreneurship, it just happens to sit in those schools. But truly, the curriculum that it's closest to is art school. Because while we teach, art appreciation, we teach art theory, art is really experiential and it's passion driven. It's not that you're going to do one coat or two. I mean, you're going to be looking at a blank canvas, and the next day there's going to be Starry Night, if we're lucky.
Dazed and confused by the wild hype surrounding gazelles and unicorns, entrepreneurship researchers have focused on the black swans of the entrepreneurial world, even though IPOs and venture capital financing of firms are extremely rare events. Despite the rarity of IPOs and obtaining venture capital, entrepreneurship conferences and journals have been filled with papers on various aspects of the process of going public and VC networks. Fortunately, in the middle of Silicon Valley mania, other scholars have been paying attention to the more mundane aspects of business startups, the ordinary business starts, numbering in the hundreds of thousands for businesses with employees. The purpose of this article is to address what we believe to be scholars' misplaced attention on the extreme and their neglect of the mundane in the study of entrepreneurship. Correcting the misperception that has been introduced through selection biases favoring growing and profitable firms will give scholars and policymakers a more accurate and policy relevant picture of entrepreneurship in the 21st century.